As you may or may not know, my wife and I just got back from Vegas. It was a great trip. We ate, we drank, we had a blast. But then we got home and looked at the credit card, and I gotta say, it doesn't matter how much fun you're having, $25 for a drink is a ripoff. Frickin' Vegas. I hate getting ripped off, and so do the lads over at Harry's. They spent years watching the razor blade companies rip people off and said, no more. Not all heroes wear capes, my friends, and they want to prove that they're legit by offering you hot dogs a $13 trial set for just $3 at harrys.com/RTG. I've been telling you about them for months, and I'm genuinely proud to have Harry's as a sponsor of this show. I wasn't kidding. The plastic, futuristic-looking crap razors you get at the store are overpriced and they're poor quality. Harry's blades are crisp, clean, and classy. They're the kind of razor you'd expect your grandpa to have on his bathroom counter. And most importantly, they work. Shave after shave, they're so smooth, they're precise. I used to go through the crappy store blades all the time, but Harry's are built to last. And they're not just better quality than the other names, they're more affordable. And they deliver. Just set your schedule, and for as little as $2, new blades, shaving creams, lotions, everything you need, right to your door when you need it. I genuinely cannot think of a reason not to try Harry's. And I'm not just saying this because they're sponsors. They're the best shaving supplies I've ever used. Try them out, and if you're not happy, your shave's on them. And unlike the other subscriptions, they're really easy to cancel if you want to too, which is a nice bonus, but believe me, you're not going to want to cancel. Getting ripped off isn't funny. Switch to Harry's. Get started with a $13 trial set for just $3 at harrys.com/RTG. That's harrys.com/RTG for a $3 trial set. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Remember the Game. It is my retro gaming podcast where every week a buddy of mine and I sit down and we geek out about the games we played back in the day. My name is Adam Blank. Thank you so much for listening. This week it is episode 101, and we are talking Super Castlevania IV for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. This was our Patreon poll winner for the month, and a deal's a deal. You guys called your shot. This is the game you want, so this is the game you get. It's a pretty good fucking game, so I'm pretty excited to talk about it. This is Simon Belmont's first appearance on the show. I'm ashamed to say 101 episodes is too long to get that guy his moment in the sun, but we're going to fix that today. You guys have ensured that we're going to remedy that. That is the case. Bradley McCue from the Movie Epidemic podcast is my guest this week, and we are going to get into Super Castlevania IV in just a few minutes. You guys know I got to ramble. If you don't want to listen to that, look at the timestamp in the description box. It sounds like most of you guys listen. Just ramble. We have a new segment. There's a lot to listen to this time, okay? Like, just listen. It's good. Just for the record, I put this on my notes, even though I don't know where to put it on the show. Simon's pretty rad in Smash. I'm terrible at Smash, and he's not my main. I usually go with Bowser or Mega Man, but if I'm not going to go with one of those two, then like Wario, Splatoon Kid, Inkling, I guess it is, or Simon are usually the ones I play as. Like, Simon's really badass. So anyway, so this is going to be fun. I'm excited. We're going to show Castlevania some love on the show this week. Before we do that, let's get into what's going on here to Remember the Game Industries. It is a busy week, and I got a lot to talk about, so I'm going to go fast. First of all, thanks to everyone that reached out and said congratulations on 100 episodes. I mean it. I meant it last week. I've said it to everybody. We all did this. This is a team. This is a group project. We have a wicked community here, and I really am excited to see where the next 100 episodes take us. I also could not have done it without the support of our Patreons. You can support the podcast for just $2 a month over at patreon.com. I think like $2 a month. You can't even get a cup of coffee for $2 anymore. It's nothing. And in exchange for your $2, you get to help select the games we cover. You get access to Expansion Pass, which is our weekly Patreon exclusive show. You get to submit your comments to be read on the show, including in a new segment that's coming up in a few minutes. And you get a shout out on the show, just like our newest Patreon, Robert. I'm going to fuck that last name up, Robert. We're just going to go Robert F., along with Jordan, Josh from the Press Start to Join podcast, Kate, Keegan Wilson, Kevin Donnellan, Luca, Lord Egbert, Mark McCue, Michael Mathis, the Movie Epidemic podcast, which Bradley McCue is one of the hosts of, Nathan W., my friend Ole MF, sorry, Ole. I don't know if it's... I'm Ole MF. I like that. Rex, Chris Wilson, Dylan, Duhow, Jason Cortez, and Kevin Hufford. Thank you so much for the support. We're going to have to rethink the shout-out soon. Maybe I do them all big once a month or something. Because there's like every week there's more and more names, and I'm trying to keep track of who I've mentioned. And anyway, so you get all that. And as I mentioned, we have a second weekly show, Expansion Pass, that goes live every single Sunday here at the show for our Patreon supporters. Last week, I ranked every game that we've talked about on the show so far. There was 94 games. I got a ton of feedback on it, all positive, albeit some people disagreeing with my rankings, which is fine. It's very funny. More of you disagreed with the worst games on the list than you did the best. Like I didn't get a single person be like, "Oh my God, I can't believe so-and-so and so-and-so are in your top 5. But the worst 2 or 3 games, people just seem really upset with the order of that. So that surprised me a little bit. But this Sunday, I want to talk about the Wii U on Expansion Pass. I loved that system, and it never stood a chance. And so what was good about the Wii U? What was bad about it? What games were great? Why did it fail? What will its legacy be? It's just going to be all about the Wii U this Sunday on Expansion Pass. So again, $2 a month, patreon.com/rememberthegame. You get all that stuff. Part of that money goes to helping the show, including our new website, which is finally done. It took me way longer than it should have. Fuck, I had to redo all the Patreon episode page, or all the podcast episode pages like 3 fucking times, but I finally got it up. I'm very happy with it. Hopefully we start showing up on Google, which was my primary focus on it. We start getting some more hits. For any of you that have been asking about what episodes are available from Expansion Passing and all of our previous bonus episodes, because there's almost 30 of them now sitting there waiting for our supporters, you can find a breakdown of all of them. You get all kinds of stuff. Check it out. RememberTheGamePodcast.com. It was paid for by you guys, so thank you so much for doing that for us. And I think that's it for the business stuff. So let's get into the news. There's only one thing I want to talk about. And that's obviously the biggest news of the last 7 days in the video game world was obviously the PlayStation 5 reveal that happened like a day after I released the last episode. They showed about an hour and a half of game footage, and we finally saw what the system looks like, and we saw some of the features, some of the tech hardware, which I don't understand at all. We didn't not get a price, and we did not get a release date, which I don't think most of us expected to get yet. But everyone in gaming is talking about it, which I think is a great way to introduce our newest segment here on Remember the Game, Letter Time. If you did not watch Video and Arcade Top 10 growing up, it was a video game show that at least they aired here in Canada. I don't know if it aired everywhere else. But anyway, every week, part of the show is they would read a letter from the audience. And I wanted to start giving our Patreons the ability to start submitting their thoughts and their opinions on the current news and what's going on as well. So from now on, as long as the Patreons are submitting comments every week, part of the opening is going to be It's Letter Time segment. So with all that said, it's letter time, it's letter time. That's the song they used to sing on the show when they'd read letters. I'll be singing that from now on. James Clark left a big comment over on the old Patreon device about the PlayStation 5 launch, and he said, "I'm pretty stoked that they plan to release a digital version of the console. It looks like they're catering to people who purchase digitally only, allowing us to get it for cheaper because we don't need some of the hardware." Which I want to cut into his comments and say I agree, and I fucking love that. And I'll be honest, maybe it's just me. I never even thought of Sony releasing an all-digital system. Everyone's saying Microsoft is going to. They did it with the Xbox One. No doubt there's going to be a Series X with an all-digital front. I never thought of Sony doing it. But like, I love it, man. I love it. It's going to be cheaper. And I think that when prices finally do drop for these things, more people are going to consider it than they are right now because they're going to be fucking expensive. And they're like, yo, if I can save a little bit of money, that is pretty fascinating to me. And I'm telling you guys right now, Sony and Microsoft want people to go all digital. I'm sure Nintendo does too, but all digital is the way they want things to go, because if you're going all digital, every time you buy a digital game instead of going to the store and buying a physical game, they don't have to pay to print a disc, they don't have to pay to ship it to the store, they don't have to worry about used copies biting into their profit margins, because instead of you buying a brand new copy of Spider-Man, you're buying a used copy that they don't see any proceeds from. So they want to go all digital for sure. My only concern, and I just thought of this while I was making the show notes, with an all digital future in gaming, is that physical sales keep them honest with their digital sales, right? Like, I mean, if GameStop or Walmart or Best Buy or whomever is putting having a big summer sale and putting, I'm just pulling some games out of my ass, but they're putting fucking Halo 5 and Ori and fucking Spider-Man and Horizon and stuff on sale, the digital stores kind of have to do it. Do you know what I mean? Like, they can't just charge whatever they want. So I don't know if it'll ever be an all digital future in gaming. Maybe it will. I mean, movies and music and stuff is pretty well gone there. But if it does, then I worry that maybe they'll start gouging us on prices and we won't get as many sales as we get right now. But having said that, like, I'm pretty excited because I'll almost certainly be going all digital for both. The Xbox because there's no doubt there's going to be an Xbox that's all digital, and I'll be going all digital on both. Save yourself a little bit of money, whatever, even if it's only $50. If you save $50, that pays for your online for the year or buys you a game or something. Like, and I just prefer my games digitally anyways. So, because every time I buy physical, I fucking sell it or trade it in and then eventually wish that I hadn't. And it's convenient. I don't want to go anywhere. I want to sit on my couch in my underwear and buy games. So, and then James continues and he says, aesthetically, I'm torn. On one hand, I really like the look of it. I like the curves and the white accents make it look extremely clean. However, on a consistency note, I'm going to miss that all black look that goes well when placing it next to my PS2, PS3, and PS4. PS1 be damned. One thing to note is that this looks like the first PlayStation console that will not allow you to lay it horizontally and still look right. This might mess with some people's home entertainment setups where they only have space to place a console horizontally in their TV stand. I'm sure there'll be third-party products that'll take care of this, though, if Sony hasn't already thought of it. The Series X looks like a behemoth and nightmare for the exact same reason. And I'm curious as to whether they even thought about that. So that's what James said. And I want to just weigh in on that. As far as the design goes, of the PS5, it's pretty controversial. If you look at the comments online, you see people posting pictures of giant fans with paper taped to them. They're like, look at my PS10, which I thought was funny the first couple times I saw, but now it's jumped the shark. Stop doing that. I'll be honest with you. Like, I've never cared what my console looks like. I just have never really even paid a lot of attention to what my console looks like. I certainly would never make my decision on what I'm going to buy based on the design of the system. That said, I do think the Series X looks cool. If you haven't seen it yet, go look it up. It's like a giant vertical fridge, just a giant black fucking rectangle. And I think it looks rad. The PS5 looks like honestly, I don't like it. I wouldn't not buy it because of the design. And I think they tried to make it look futuristic, but I think it just kind of looks weird. And I also agree with James. If you have all black PlayStations, then the white one's going to look funky. But I have zero doubt they're going to release black ones, though. Like, they're maybe not right off the hop, but like every console fucking basically starting with the Nintendo 64 has gotten variants on the design and the colors and stuff like that. I'm sure we're going to get that with the PlayStation 5. I have a bigger concern with making them stand vertically because, like James mentioned, most of us have entertainment centers and these things aren't going to fit. No one's going to skip it because they have to make it stand, but it is going to be a problem to try to figure out how to make them fit into console or how to fit into, shelves and stuff like that. And I can only assume, and I don't know anything about technology. I'm an idiot. I can only assume that the reason that they're both releasing these vertical consoles is because these are the two most powerful home video game consoles ever released. Maybe they need the ventilation. It's the same thing. Please don't fucking send me angry tweets and stuff because I'm stupid. I don't know. But computer towers are all vertical with that whole back with the fans and all that kind of shit, right? And maybe these things are getting closer and closer to PC towers. Maybe that they have to be vertical to allow maximum ventilation for the air to get in and out and to keep them from exploding. So I don't know. It's going to be fascinating. I don't know which one I'll buy first because eventually I want to get both of them. I don't know if I'll get either one at launch. It'll depend on if anyone wants comedy shows by then. But I will say, Sony impressed the fuck out of me with that conference. That presentation was phenomenal. There was not one game, aside maybe from Gran Turismo, that didn't at least somewhat interest me. And the only reason I wasn't that into Gran Turismo is because that's just not my jam. Like, it looked rad. I just don't really care about those games. I don't play racing games aside from Mario Kart at all. Like, it's obviously their answer to Forza. Bringing back Gran Turismo to because Xbox is almost certainly going to launch with Forza, and I don't really care about that either. But it looked nice. Most of these games looked rad, and I thought personally the standouts from the presentation for myself were Ratchet and Clank, which honestly I've never played through a Ratchet and Clank game. I really got to fix that because they look dope. And I thought that game might have been the best looking game of the whole presentation. I thought Ghostwire Tokyo looked rad, and Deathloop. Deathloop, to me, I thought Deathloop was going to be BioShock for a little while with the way the hand was kind of shooting magic and then the other one was shooting a gun. And I was like, man, are we getting a new BioShock? Deathloop was probably my game, like the game I'm most excited about right now. Spider-Man looks dope because Miles is fucking awesome. Horizon 2 is huge. I predicted that would be a launch title on my predictions episode of Expansion Pass, so we'll see if that comes through. Resident Evil 8 looks sick. It was just like incredibly well done. And quite frankly, as much as I like Microsoft and Xbox, I thought the last Xbox presentation looked incredibly amateurish compared to what Sony managed to put out last week. So, I mean, that's why Sony's been on top for so long. Fucking, if you're going to come at the king, you best not miss, right? Sony's been on top for over 20 years, and there's a fucking reason. They know what they're doing, and that presentation proved it. I cannot wait to see how Microsoft fires back at them with their presentation next month, because they're going to have to. Microsoft has already said that they're going to be showing off some first-party games at that thing, and their last presentation came across very amateurish, I thought, with the webcams and stuff. I think they were maybe trying to go for like the everyman, where just normal people feel, but I don't want that from my gaming system. You know what I mean? If you're going to charge me $500 or $600 to buy your video game console, then I don't want you to look like me, because I wouldn't buy anything from me. I want you to look like fucking like PlayStation just did. I want you to look like someone who's richer and smarter than I am, because that's why I'm giving you my money, you know? But I can't wait. And I can't wait to see what Microsoft does. And fuck, I want someone to blink on these fucking prices, because neither one has. You can tell clear as day both of them are waiting to see if the other one caves and drops their price, because then the first one can come out and do it. Sony's fucking done that a couple of times, man. I want to say it was the Sega Saturn. I'm almost sure it was the Sega Saturn. That Sega came out at E3 and said it was $399, and then PlayStation came out and just said $299 and left or something. And then they did the exact same thing with the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. And I'm not shitting on them for it, because it's smart business. It's totally smart business. For someone that's on the fence, or someone that just buys it to play one or two games or something, $100 is a lot of money. So one of them is going to undercut the other. It's just going to be a matter of when eventually one of them blinks. They should have to just do it at the same time. Just do it like on Final Jeopardy, where they write their names or their fucking answers down on that blue screen and lock them in, and then even have Alex Trebek fucking read them. Why not? That'd be awesome. One of them's going to blink. I can't wait. Oh, it's a fucking good time to be a gamer, man. That's long enough. That's good enough. That's the news. That's our new segment. That's the intro. James, thanks for writing in. You don't get a prize. I just read your letter into the thing. Good enough. What have I been playing over the last 7 days? Not very much. Just like last week, I've been pretty busy. I've been trying so hard to get the web. I literally finished this fucking website like 2 hours ago on Tuesday afternoon. I finally put it down. I'm so excited to not have to fucking look at it for a couple of days. I am trying to finish Medieval on the PS1 before Friday when Last of Us 2 drops. I don't know if I'm going to get there, but fuck, I want to. Because once Last of Us 2 comes out, that's going to take over my life for at least a week. I still have to start Final Fantasy on the NES, which won this month's Patreon poll, but I'll get to that after Last of Us. I'm back into Witcher 3 on my Switch a little. Just, at night, sometimes I hop in and just dink around for an hour. That game is so great. I know some people have some takes on the combat, which admittedly, like, I don't hate the combat. I just prefer gunplay over the sword stuff. But like, the side missions aren't boring. The story's interesting. The world's great. I wasn't that hyped for Cyberpunk, but the more I play Witcher 3, the more I'm like, dude, if they do this but make it like Fallout, fuck yeah. Like, now I'm getting a little excited for it. So, and I've also been playing a little Mario Kart 8 and a little bit of Smash on my Switch. Just honestly, they're two games I found that I can semi-play coherently when I'm high. And so at night, when I take a little bit of oil and before I go to bed, I just sit down there and dink around on those. Just kind of, I'm in that no man's land where I'm just waiting for Last of Us. So it's been a lot of fun. God, I'm bad at Smash, but it's been fun. Good enough, guys. That's what I've been playing. That's the news. That's the segments. That's the plugs. Let's get to the meat of the subject this week. The turkey in this sandwich, Super Castlevania IV, episode 101 of Remember the Game. I have to be honest, guys. I have never finished or owned a Castlevania game prior to this. This one I played on my Super Nintendo Classic, and this was not one of those ones I had to tweak. This one just came on the Super Nintendo Classic. We would rent the Castlevania games as kids for the NES, but like, let's be honest, guys, there's no way a kid is beating one of the NES Castlevanias in a weekend with a rented copy. There's just no fucking way. That's one of those games you gotta practice to beat it. I never could. We will cover them eventually. I've got them on my NES here. I want to play them. I have so much I want to play, so... but this was a treat. This was a real treat. You guys picked a fantastic game with your Patreon poll this month. It's a great game with some very minor flaws that Bradley McCue and I are going to get into. I am going to cue some music. And we are going to talk about Super Castlevania IV, which originally released in North America on the Super Nintendo Entertainment System on October 31st, Halloween, 1991. I never knew that. That's pretty rad. We're gonna get into the game, fucking kick back and relax, and pretend I got the outro right, and we're gonna talk Castlevania IV right now. Here we go. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Everyone that listens to this podcast knows about our illustrious CEO, my dog Molly. But the other silent partner behind the scenes is my wife. And let me tell you, my friends, a 17-year relationship with another person that has to talk to and live with you is a lot harder to maintain than one with a dog. We've had our ups and downs, and as you all know, a relationship isn't all sunshine and rainbows. They can be a lot of work. You get out what you put in when it comes to relationships, and talking to a therapist can be a fantastic way to put in some work. They can help you work through your issues, learn to communicate better, and even just provide you with an ear to bend when you need it. I've talked to my therapist about my relationships, especially when it came to my stand-up comedy career and how much I was away from home, and they helped me work on ways to keep my relationship strong even when I was out on the road. It turned out our relationship was actually better when I was out on the road, but that's a story for another day. And I know, right? Therapy. Who has the time these days? BetterHelp hears you, and they're making it easy. Fill out a quick form online, and they'll match you up with a therapist that suits your needs and that'll work around your schedule. You pick the meet times, and you can get your therapy fix from anywhere, over video, phone, or just chat. Become your own soulmate, whether you're looking for one or not. Visit BetterHelp.com/rememberthegame today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/rememberthegame. Okay, as per the Patreon poll's request, we are talking Super Castlevania IV for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System today, the greatest console of all time. And joining me via the miracle of the telephone device once again is my good friend Bradley McCue. How's it going, buddy?
I am doing great. I'm very excited to talk about Castlevania because I've talked about pretty much all my favorite video game franchises, from the Mario RPG games on here to Metal Gear Solid several times, and hopefully more in the future.
Yeah.
And now I get to talk about another video game franchise that I love quite dearly, Castlevania.
Yeah, man. It's funny because, like, I don't know when this episode is going to go live. It'll be some point in June, but it'll be, I'm guessing, probably episode 101 or 102. And I can't believe that we went 100 episodes without Castlevania popping up on a retro gaming show.
In there?
No, I've never talked about a Castlevania game on here. And it's weird because like I played the original NES ones. I didn't really play this one. So when this one popped up in the Patreon poll, it ran away with the Patreon poll that it was in.
Well, with good reason. This one is fucking awesome.
This game is, dude, just like, listen, everybody knows this is a Super Nintendo Homers podcast through and through. I don't even apologize for it anymore. The best thing about the Super Nintendo is it took all these great NES games and just made them better. It did it with Mario. It did it with Zelda. It did it with Final Fantasies. It did it with Castlevania. Like, 2 of the original 3 Castlevanias are rad. This one is miles ahead of all of them. Fucking miles ahead of all of them.
By a long shot. It's not my personal favorite Castlevania game, but of the originals, I definitely think this is the one.
Just quickly, is your favorite Symphony of the Night?
My favorite is Symphony of the Night. Yeah. That game is fucking unreal.
I never played that one either. I gotta put it on.
It's so good.
Yeah,
it's basically like Konami played Super Metroid and was like, yeah, that's ours now. We have that now.
Yeah.
That belongs to us.
For in case, like, if by some fluke somebody didn't know out there, like the newest kind of genre that's popped up in gaming. Well, I guess the newest genre is battle royales, but like the Metroidvania genre has existed for the last decade or so, and like it's the Vania part is Castlevania. Like, and playing this game, I was like, there's not a lot of Metroid aspects in this one. This one is just left to right, up and down, attack, and get to the end of the game. But just game. It's Bradley. This game is just it's platforming action, almost perfection.
At its absolute finest.
Yeah, like I was about to say perfection, but I'm like, I have a couple minor nitpicks, but very, very close. Like just
there's a couple of things about this game I don't love, but there's a lot of things that I really, really do love. So let's really get into Super Castlevania IV, really bite into this thing. So I'll be honest, I had played this game before, but I'd never beat it until you had asked me to do it on the show, and then I was like, this is a great opportunity to play through a game. I played it on the Switch collection. Did you play it on the Switch collection?
No, I played it on my Super Nintendo Classic.
Is it on there?
Yeah, it was one of the games. So, because I'll ask you, because you said you had played it before. Did you play it as a kid, or did you play it like as an adult and just never finished it?
I played it as a kid. I had the Super Nintendo cartridge. I still do have the Super Nintendo cartridge.
Seriously?
And
that's sick.
I've still got this bad boy on full on cartridge. As an adult playing through this game, I understand why I didn't beat it as a kid.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But now, okay, go ahead.
Let's be real for a second. The biggest thing that people tell you about this game, and they're right, is that it's really pretty fucking hard.
Now, you see, you're right. It is. But having said that, and I haven't played the original NES Castlevanias since since all I had was an NES. But I remember them being harder than this one. Like, until the last 3 or 4 levels, I found this one pretty tolerable.
You know, I thought about that too, because I was thinking that as well when I was playing this game, and I realized why it is. And that is that they're roughly the same difficulty, but the controls here are better.
Yeah, that's probably, you're probably right, yeah.
And there's less cheap deaths. Like, I think the difficulty is about the same. It's just this game is designed to be more fun.
It's more beatable. Yeah. So, like, because you said, like, the cheap deaths, like, maybe I'll ask you about this, because, like, maybe this is just me, but, like, for some reason, I've always associated Castlevania with Ninja Gaiden. I don't know why. I've just always, just like how, like,
it's the goddamn blowback death,
right? That's what it is. Exactly.
The fucking blowback death.
Like, there's just certain games that no real association with each other will always be joined at the hip. I don't care what anybody says. Crash Bandicoot and Spyro the Dragon will always be a tag team. They're just always going to be a tag team. And Ninja Gaiden and Castlevania have always been the same thing. And you're right. That's what it is. It's that motherfucking bounce back. And I don't know, like, I don't understand
how... It's the darkest mark on this game, for sure.
Oh, by a mile. And the Ninja Gaiden games. Like, all of them. Okay, listen. Anyone out there that's designing a video game, I guess maybe they decided this was part of the, like, the design of the game, and it was like, well, without that, the game's too easy. That has to be in there. There's not one fucking gamer in the gaming universe that is like, you know what I would love? If every time a bad guy touched me, I bounced back like 3 feet. That would be just ideal to me. Nobody fucking likes that.
Platforming game where you have to fucking jump over shit all the time.
And we're apparently, and this has been the thing in every Castlevania game, apparently, at least the original 4, apparently gravity has been turned up to like 900 in Simon's world because he falls like a sack of concrete. Like he just...
Yes, absolutely.
Right? Like you jump and like you go up at a regular speed, but then it's just like boom. Like you're like magnetized to the ground. So when you get that fucking bounce back, you float back and then...
Every time you die, every time you get thrown into one of those pits, the game turns into Bender from Futurama and goes, "Take that, meatbag."
Yeah, son of a bitch, man. I was getting so fucking angry near the end. I tweeted about it while I was playing it, and I was like, the greatest enemy in Castlevania history is the stairs. Because fuck me. That's my other gripe. So like normally we do the good and then the bad. Let's just do the bad and just get it done. That blowback can suck my asshole. Sorry, everybody. We kind of lost each other on the technical difficulties of the telephone. I should pay my bill maybe someday.
Yeah.
So we were ranting about the blowback, and then you were going to say something else, and I got angry. And
right. There's something about this game that really pisses me off a little bit, and maybe it's just because like the people at Konami were like, well, we have to make sure that people can beat this game, and that is, while I find the levels to be so incredibly fucking difficult, the bosses are so easy.
Right?
They are. I found them to just be like such wimps. Like there were so many bosses where I was like, I don't think I got hit at all there.
Yeah, I took the bosses as like, it's weird because in a lot of games the levels are easy and then the bosses are just cheap garbage. And this one's almost
like Mega Man.
Right. And this one is like, I don't like, listen, for the record, like if you love Castlevania, we're not here to shit on it because like we got a couple of bad things to say and then we're going to suck its dick for like 20 minutes. Like we have more good things to say than bad. But the bosses, you're right. It's like, I remember that too. I was like, it's almost like a reward. They're like, oh, hey, you made it through that level. Take a breather. Like just fucking, this is easy. Like 90% of them are a walk in the park. Like a walk in the park.
So I'm gonna be real. I'm gonna be honest with you about something here for a second because I'm a good person and I don't want anybody to think any less of me. I played this on the Castlevania collection and I use save states. And because this game is like fucking impossible if you don't, but I only use them at the beginning of each stage.
Oh, that's not too bad then.
Because what happens is that if you're on stage 6-3 and you get killed by the final boss before going to level 7, you go back to 6-1.
Right. Yeah.
Not about that.
Now here's the thing is like, that's irritating, but I feel like fuck, I've ranted about that so many fucking times. That just like, to me, that's because how long does this game? 3 hours? Like if I looked at my file on my SNES Classic, it's probably about 3 hours, like to beat it.
I think I was for about 5.
Okay, so it's not the longest game in the world. So I'm sure that they were like, well, if we put shit like that in, it'll extend the because like otherwise, like some kid is like, I want Castlevania for my birthday, and then his mom buys it for him, and he beats it that night, and then whines forever.
It's the whole Blockbuster thing, right? They make the game hard so the kid has to rent it a few times.
Spot on, yeah. And I get it. And I get that as a normal thing in retro gaming, but like it's 2020 and we're both old men with limited time now and no patience. That drives me fucking bananas too. That drives me fucking bananas.
I found myself amidst quarantine busier than I expected to be, so I really didn't have that much time.
Yeah.
But this game's short enough that if you save state, did you use save states at all? Just be real with me for a sec.
Only in the very last level, with the four bosses.
Then you're a stronger man than I.
Well, I don't. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Well, you're a McCue. You're a McCue. You've got that Mark McCue curse, though. That's the problem.
Yeah.
But no, I did. And like, listen, actually, I was gonna, by the time this episode goes live, I'll have done an episode of Expansion Pass about it, all about save states and stuff, and how I know there are traditionalists out there that feel like save states are cheating and everything, and like, sure, if I wanted to put that I beat Castlevania 4 on my resume, sure, I'll put an asterisk on it and put with some save state. I just like. I don't care anymore. Like, it's like I have nobody to impress anymore. Time is of the essence. If I want to beat it without save states, I probably could sit down and practice it for fucking 2 months and get good enough to do that like we did as kids when we only owned 2 games. I don't have that luxury anymore. Save states, fuck off. They're not cheating.
I don't have time to play through this game over and over and over again to perfect it. And the thing is with save states is that I really only put them in places that a modern game would just have a save.
Right.
That's the only place I put save states because I'm not a kid. I don't have 4 games. I don't have 4 games that I'm just going to be like, I guess these. I have fucking like 1,000 video games.
There's
You're going to fuck with my time.
There's 8 games on the Castlevania collection. So
yeah,
we just
absolutely. And man, I know that you're sort of like a Sega Genesis advocate as of late, but usually you would bash on it in comparison to the Super Nintendo. When I was done playing Super Castlevania IV, I popped over to the Sega Genesis one, Dracula X. Fucking sucks shit compared to Super Castlevania IV.
Does it? It's on the Genesis Mini, but I haven't played it yet. It's not good.
Shit compared. I mean, it's fine. It's a fine Castlevania game, but it looks terrible. It sounds terrible. The controls aren't as tight. You can't fucking throw your whip in all four angles anymore. You can only do it left and right and up and down.
Oh.
Whereas let's talk about that. That's like the best thing they added to this
dude.
game.
That is so rad. And that's one of those things that like they just quickly on the Sega Genesis thing. Maybe this is just me, because you're right. I have completely 180'd. Like I feel like we were arch nemesises, and now we're like, yeah, we're buds now. We're cool.
To me, no beef with him.
No, he's fine. Playing this game.
It's like when you see your high school bully in a bar, and you're like, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, that's right. You're like, I'll drug him later, but that's fine. The Sega Genesis, like this game to me looked like a Genesis game. Like, and I mean that in a complimentary fashion, because I've always admired the Genesis's graphics and how bright and colorful and just how popping their graphics looked. And maybe I'm out to lunch on this because I haven't played the Genesis version of Castlevania, but I really thought, I was like playing it, I was like, dude, this game looks really fucking good. Like, just like really good.
This is peak 16-bit graphics, and the crazy thing about it is that it released in 91. It's an early Super Nintendo title.
Yeah, like they could release this game today as an indie game, and people would praise the way it looks, I think, because it looks that good.
I was thinking about that too. I was like, this is very akin to something like The Messenger or like Dead Cells. Like, it's very akin to that, and if they released it now as an indie title, I don't think anybody would even notice.
No, I think not only would people not notice, I think people would like, I think this game would be like, it's easily considered one of the best games on the Super Nintendo, but I think if it was released today, you're right, it would be in that conversation with Dead Cells and The Messenger, and Hollow Knight, and just as like one of those top tier indie games. Like if it was released today, people would be like, "This is really good."
Absolutely.
I admire it. I love it. So.
And just on the topic of the visuals, man, like it's crazy the shit they do in this game. There's one level in particular that I fucking love, the visual style, and that's the level where you have to grab on to like a hook with your whip, and then the entire room sort of rotates, and you have to wait for it to rotate to be able to get onto the platforms. It sucks ass having to sit there and wait for it, but it's a really great visual. And they knew that too.
Yeah, I wanted to do 2 for 2 on that because I think it looks rad. Because I mean, especially if you see all that in 1991, you might have been like, holy fuck, I've never seen anything like this before. If you've never played the game, and we'll get back into the whip in a minute, but basically Simon, in a few different instances, can whip like a hook and then hang from it. And most of the time you do an Indiana Jones style, like swing across a gap and then land. But in this case, you swing onto this hook, and then the entire room rotates like 90 degrees, and the spikes that were below you end up on the wall beside you, and then you fall on this other platform. And you're right, that looks rad, but I also have a major beef with that scene, because you would drop onto that platform and fight the Medusa heads, and then what you're supposed to do is grab that hook again and let it rotate 90 more degrees so you can keep going. But there's a fucking gap there on the left of the screen, and the amount of times I died...
Yeah, you're right.
Because you fight the Medusa heads and then assume like, okay, well now I have to jump over into that gap, and you can't make that jump because you're not supposed to go there.
What I did that twice, I think, because I was like, that was a glitch of some sort. You're supposed to go down there, right?
Yeah, like I game overed there, and then I was like, what the fuck? And then I got thinking about it, and I'm like, there is no way a game this pristine, like blowback of the contact from bad guys aside, like there is like. One of the signs of a bad video game is when they put platforming in that's just almost impossible to like make the jump. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, where you have to have both, like one foot completely off the ledge and the other foot just your ankle is touching.
Yeah, like and like once I missed these jumps a few times and got a game over, I'm like, there's no fucking way I have to make that jump, because there's no way a game of this quality put a shit jump in there like a classic Ninja Turtles fucking game did. Like there's no way. So then you have to hold back onto that hook, and then it rotates 90 more degrees. And I agree with you. I thought that was such a rad little thing. And the whole time you're just like, you can swing them back and forth if you want to. And I thought that the effects, like the physics of the swinging, was actually really accurate. And you just waited for the screen to flip around, and that's such a cool little thing. I'm surprised they didn't do more of that. They only really did it once.
Yeah.
But
yeah. And it's a pretty short level, actually. Like I felt like I was sort of shortchanged on the amount of time that I spent in that really cool rotating room, because really it's just, you got to wait for the room to rotate. You kill the Medusa heads, you wait for it to rotate again, and you'll walk the fuck out.
Yeah, like I'm surprised they didn't, like, it would have been cool to see them work like a boss fight in with that or something. But oh no, wait, we already talked about that. They mailed in the boss fights, so they wouldn't possibly
they phoned them in for sure.
Well, knowing the way this game's designed, they would have done a boss fight where all you do is hang onto the hook, the screen rotates 90 degrees, and the boss falls off the screen and dies. And they would have been like, oh, you beat them. Fucking good job, because they're so easy. But I agree. That's rad. And like you mentioned earlier before I originally cut you off the first time, the whip in this game is awesome. It is awesome. Because like the whip in the old Castlevania games was fine. It was just your weapon. It just shot straight ahead or up and that was it. Like, but this one, like once you whip it, you can hold the attack button and then your whip just dangles and then you can just push whatever direction you want. And it not only does it like, it'd be one thing if it dangled and then if you push like upright, it would just diagonally shoot up in the air, but it doesn't completely shoot straight up in the air. It just kind of flops up and then goes back down.
And I love that as well, but I also have a small, very minor beef about that. So in the game, like you said, you can whip and then you hold it and it dangles and you can sort of just like flop it around.
Like nunchuck it.
Yeah, you just fucking nunchuck it around.
Yeah.
And at first, and for, I would say, almost all the game, it seems like that's something they just added in for fun. Until you get to the final boss and they're like, we should hope you've perfected this.
Yeah, fuck.
Because if not, you're fucked.
Yeah, dude, I died so many times where he shoots those little fireballs at you, and I didn't realize that, like, oh, I could swing the whip into them. Like, I can't believe, and then I did it by accident once and was like, son of a bitch.
I spent, so I, I did a little bit of save stating, and I save state right before the final boss, because I think that's allowed. You're allowed to do that.
Yeah, I have no problem
Especially when there's 4 bosses right before, and if you game over, you fucking start them all over again. I think I'm allowed.
Yeah, no problem.
Actually, no, that's not true with the Dracula fight. If you game over, you actually just start at the Dracula fight.
Yeah, you go back to the stairs right in front of them. Yeah,
right.
But still,
right. So thank God for Konami for at least doing that. The bosses before Dracula are harder than the other bosses in the game, but not by a lot.
No.
I just found myself dying on them a little bit because I assumed they would be as easy as the other bosses.
Yeah. And like, you're right though, like, because you have to fight 4 bosses in a row before you fight Dracula. Like Dracula is the 4th boss.
Yeah, there's like the, I'm trying to remember now.
There's like a flying bat thing.
The flying demon, there's Death, and then there's one before that. There's one before both those ones, but I forget what that one is.
Oh, it's like that fucking weird cat creature thing. The skeleton cat creature thing. And honestly, I thought, well, Dracula's the hardest boss in the game. But I thought that cat creature thing, once I got a pattern figured out, then I beat him without even taking any damage. But I died a lot trying to figure out the fucking pattern to fight that guy.
You know what I do love though is I love when a video game is rife with boss battles, which this game is, but I love it even more when the hardest one is the final one.
Yeah. Well, to an extent.
I don't know if you've ever, I know you were playing Final Fantasy 15, but did you ever beat it?
No.
Okay, so like Final Fantasy 15, that's a great game. I fucking love that game. But in Final Fantasy 15, there's like this insanely hard boss fight, and then when you have the final boss fight with Arden, it's way easier.
Oh, really?
And I hate that shit. Zelda does that a lot too. Like they're like, this boss fight's gonna be really easy. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, that's my biggest blemish on Breath of the Wild. Was I thought the last fight was garbage.
Yeah, it's fucking so easy.
But now, having said that, and I've ranted about this before, I'm also very anti. Let's turn the difficulty up to 3,000 and just make this boss impossible. Like, I get borderline anxiety when I go up against the final boss of a game because I'm like, is it going to be one of those fucking bosses that I just can't fucking beat? Like, there's a fine line. And like you said...
you should be rewarded for getting there, but I do think that a final boss should hold as much challenge as the game has previously offered.
Yeah, agreed. And I would say that other than a couple of levels, Dracula was the hardest part of this game.
Yeah, absolutely. Dracula is the hardest part of the game. And what I liked about that, though, is that because every time you hit him, it does take a bar of his health away, seeing that happen every time you try to fight him gives you, like, this sense of, like, I can do it.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, like, you ever fight, like, a final boss, and you're like, well, turn it off. I'm never doing that.
Yeah.
I never felt that way about this. I was like, I know I'm going to fucking get him. I know I'm going to get him down.
Yeah.
Eventually. It's going to take some time because he has 2 parts, and if you die, you go back to the beginning of the first fucking part.
Yeah, I'm monstrously behind showing us a boss's health meter. Like, I mean, maybe it's the Mega Man fan in me, how the Robot Masters always have their health meter on the other side of the screen. Same as, like, again, these games have that the little red bars up top or whatever, but just show me how much further I got to go. Like, that's, like, I don't care how long it takes, just show me. Like, I fucking I hate guessing. I fucking hate guessing.
Well, and I especially like when you can see like a bar in like an RPG, like Paper Mario is a great example because like like how to strategize around how much health the character has.
Yeah. I like when you know you're close and you can decide to just Hail Mary it, like, and just go for broke, or do you like play it conservative? Like, I like that. Like, let me strategize like that.
Depends on what game I'm playing. Like, I've been playing Final Fantasy VII Remake, and if I've got someone down to the last little bit, I think I'm gonna go pretty buck wild.
Yeah.
But if I'm playing Dark Souls, I got to be patient to the last fucking second.
That game is banned from this show.
Well, and the thing is like, even games like Mega Man, like I've had times where I'm like, oh, he's down to the last little bit, let's go for broke, and I get fucked.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, if only you weren't such an impatient baby.
Yeah. But I still like knowing, though. It's part of the strategy to me, right? Plus, then you know how close you were. Dude, like, sorry, guys, we're not going to go on too much of a tirade here, but have you ever played Cuphead? Did you play Cuphead?
Yeah, I have Cuphead.
Cuphead's the shit, by the way. But, like, when you die on a boss, it shows you, like, that little graph, or on a level, and it'll show you a little graph to show you how close you got to beating him. Like,
yeah, that's an awesome mechanic.
Yeah, I almost like that even more. I like being able to see their health because then I can strategize it a bit. But at least, like, if I die, let me know if I was close or not. Like, let me be like, okay, I was right on the cusp, or like I have to rethink how I'm doing this because I was nowhere. I hate when you're attacking something. I was ranting about this the other day. I fucking hate it when you're attacking something and you have no idea how much damage you're doing to it. No fucking idea. For all you know, it's not even hurting it. Like, you have no clue. That drives me up the fucking wall. Just tell me if I'm hurting it. Or
at the very least have like an indicator, like in like these old games like Super Castlevania IV, when you hit somebody and they make like a sound and they glow, they have like a glow going on and then they're invincible for a second. Like, just give me that. It's so easy to do.
Yeah, I don't need realism. I need fun. Fucking tell me that I'm playing it right. Please. Fuck.
Absolutely. Now, as much as I think that the bosses in this game were really easy, I also think they're really fun.
Oh, they're rad.
I had a great time with a lot of them. Frankenstein was so easy, but had a blast fighting him. There was like a mummy character that I loved. I loved that mummy fight. Oh, it was where he would like, or was it like a Sandman or something where he would, no, it was a mummy. It was a mummy. He would disappear and then reappear in different parts of the stage, and you would have to change your strategy based on where he's standing. That's such a brilliant way to make an easy and short boss fight worth fighting.
Yeah, agreed. Instead of like, dude, the crappiest bosses to me are the ones where their whole design is they're just going to walk into you to hurt you. Like, I'm like, come on, get the fuck out of here. Like, there's nothing clever about that. If you're going to make it so that his big attack is that he just walks into me, then at least make it where he's moving around the screen in a fascinating way. Like bad guys that drill through the ground or something. Like, at least, do you know what I mean? Like, don't just make it where they're big and they walk toward you. Like, fuck right off.
Yeah, because like if they're big and they walk towards you, you could get caught in a corner, and that sucks. And there's like a big, like, it's like a swamp creature that just does that in this game, and I don't like that boss fight. Again, it's pretty easy because like every time you hit him, he gets slightly smaller.
Yeah.
But the thing I hate so much about boss fights like that is that you should absolutely be able to fucking jump over them or get around them in some way. They're just gonna walk towards you.
Yeah, and Castlevania, like, as rad as this game is, it's not known for its platforming. Like, it's not the most, like, Simon's not the most agile cat out there. Yeah. So like dodging stuff sucks.
As far as platforming goes, I think that this game does the best out of any other entry in the early games for sure.
Yeah, I like most of it. Like I mentioned in the tweet earlier, what the fuck is with the stairs in a Castlevania game? I should not get anxious every time I try to climb stairs in a video game.
The thing that I hate about the stairs, and specifically about the clock tower level in, what is it, stage A or stage B or whatever the fuck. For some reason, they stopped using numbers at one point, and then they're like, fuck it, it's just stage A.
Yeah, right? It was like 12 or 13 numbers, and then it went to letters. Like, what the? Yeah. Okay, sure.
Like, oh, I'm here for it, I guess. But there's that clock tower level, which I like, but it does this thing that a lot of older games do, and it must have been a limitation of the time, but it just pisses me off. And that's like when you fall down back to where you just were, and you know goddamn well that there's a platform there, but you die anyways.
Yeah. Oh, dude.
Because it's now a pit.
When you get hit by something and you fall backward and you just fall through like a dozen sets of stairs. And then even when you try to climb them, even when you try to climb the fucking stairs, Bradley, there are a lot of instances in this game where you'll like, they do the like the like angle to the left, then angle to the right, then angle to the left, like, and you have to go up and then up and then up and like to the right, to the left, to the right, to the left. And so you're constantly on platforms where stairs go down and up from the same edge. And like, I legitimately, and this goes back to my childhood playing the original Castlevania games, I get anxious when I go to step onto the stairs every time. Because I'm like, sure, this dude is a badass with a whip and knives and he can fight Dracula and mummies and stuff, but those stairs are going to fuck him up. And that should not be a thing. It should not be a thing. And everybody behind it should be not fired, because this is a good game, but they should at least be like penalized.
Reprimanded.
Yeah, that's the word, because I've been reprimanded a lot. I should know that word. Because the fucking stairs are just so goddamn infuriating, and it's like, it shouldn't be hard. I shouldn't have to push up or down to fucking walk upstairs. I should just be a matter of walking into the stairs, and then I start climbing them. And then if I want to go down them, then I hold down and hit jump, and then I fall through them. I'm fine with that mechanic. Fuck me. And when you get knocked back and you land on stairs, how about you stop on the stairs?
Yeah, instead of falling through them,
you fall through like a dozen.
Oh my fucking god!
And this is something that a lot of old games do that just chaps my ass. Is when you fall down, even if you were climbing up the screen, if you're climbing down the screen, like there's one part near the end. It's one of those fucking levels with the green backgrounds and all the spiky platforms. The very beginning of that, you have to climb down all these sets of stairs, and there's a bunch of like skeleton warriors around. And if you fall, as long as you land on a platform, you're fine. Like the screen comes with you. But if it's a scene where you have to climb up, if you fall, then the screen doesn't go back down with you. You just die if you fall off the bottom of the screen.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a technical limitation or something, but that drives me up the fucking wall. Drives me up the fucking wall. God.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So I played through this game, and I'll be honest. Like I feel like we've been giving it more shit than I expected.
Me too.
Because it's really good. I really love this game. But throughout the game, you collect these things that are Roman numerals of 1, 2, and 3. What are those?
Okay, I looked that up because I wouldn't know either. So yeah, like, because that's the other thing is like, and I've always loved the, and again, this is where I associate Castlevania with Ninja Gaiden. You find random weapons, and then you also pick up, in this case, you pick up hearts. In Ninja Gaiden, you pick up those little scrolls, I think it is, or whatever. Yeah. And then you can build up your power to use your extra weapon. And I like that mechanic a lot. I've never had a problem with that mechanic at all. But you can pick up those 1, 2, or 3 numbers, and I read about it. And if you pick up like the Roman numeral 2, then I think what it is you, every time you use your extra weapon, you'll shoot 2 for the price of 1. And then 3, cool. You'll shoot 3 for the price of 1. But once you die, you lose it, and you're almost certainly going to die at some point. But yeah, I agree.
Like I was trying to figure that out at one point.
Yeah, like I don't know if you were like this. Like I'm the same way with RPGs, with Mega Man, with anything where I get extra weapons. I never use them because I'm afraid I'll burn them out and then need them later.
Yeah.
And then I beat a boss after I died 3 times and then realized like, oh yeah, I had that fucking axe that I could have been throwing at him the whole time that I just didn't use. But I love the power-up mechanic in this game. I like that in any video game where like the only beef I have with it is you hit like the random candles and lanterns, and most of the time they drop hearts, but then every once in a while they'll drop a different weapon because you can get like the daggers, you can get the arcing axe, you can get the boomeranging cross thingy, you can get the holy water. What I hate is that a lot of the time I'll hit the candle and accidentally pick up the next item without meaning to. Do you know what I mean?
The candle, but like that's the one that you like, the candle?
No. I mean like I hit a candle that had like an item in it. And then find it. No, the weapon I like is the boomeranging cross.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, but I'll get it and then accidentally lose it.
To like a point that you were making earlier about like you like to save your shit. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because I was hearkening back to Symphony of the Night. But I was pretty sure that in this game that I had heard that after the Dracula fight, he turns into like Beast Dracula. So I didn't use my special items on Dracula at all. I was scared to.
Oh.
And then the game ended, and I was like, well, no, Oh,
That could have been so much easier. Fuck.
yeah, I could have made that because like it's we mentioned it before, but it's a hard boss fight. But to play it like that, well, and like especially like in that last little bit where there's all those bosses in a row, you really don't want to fuck with any of your stuff.
No, you want to save it for when you need it.
Yeah, because like you're fighting death, and you're like, well, look, this is a vampire hunting game. I know death isn't the last boss, but I'm sure there's more after this.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But you know what though, and this is something that I love about most of. I wouldn't even say old games because there are modern games that do this too, but in particular old games. I've always been a massive fan of difficult bosses that have a pattern, and it's a matter of figuring out the pattern. I think that's why I love particularly Super Punch-Out, but the Punch-Out game so much, is I love it. I love it. Like, there's nothing more satisfying in gaming to me than when I'm fighting a boss or an enemy or something, and after dying a couple of times, I've learned that, like, okay, when he raises his right arm, he's going to shoot fire, and as long as I duck, that won't hit me. You know what I mean? Like that silky smooth run where you know how to dodge every attack. And this game did that very, very well, where especially with Dracula, but in some of the harder fights, if you died a few times, but you were paying attention and learning, then you learn what you have to do to dodge all their attacks and counterattack it. I love that. That's so much more fun to me than a randomized, he just has to walk into you and fucking hurt you boss. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, absolutely. I also agree. We had mentioned it sort of briefly earlier, but I want to talk about like how fucking good does this game look?
Yeah, man. It's
gorgeous. It's so crazy because it's such an early Super Nintendo game, but like you see, like especially like the bosses look insane, like to a point where I didn't even know they could do that on the Super Nintendo late into its life cycle.
Yeah.
But like for instance, there's that the giant skull with the super long tongue that attacks you.
Yeah, yeah.
And, like, much like all the other ones, it's really easy, but like, holy shit, does he have that? Looks like a giant skull with a really long tongue attacking you. Like, you can barely see pixels.
Yeah, so like this game, like it looks gorgeous, and to me, like one of the many things I adore about the Super Nintendo is with certain games, it feels like they were finally able to make the game they wanted to make on the original NES. And Castlevania, to me, maybe as much as any of the other games I've played on here, like screamed it, where like the original Castlevania games are fine, but this one, it was just like, this is what we were trying to make on that. Do you know what I mean? As far as how it looks.
Isn't this game sort of like canonically, isn't it like the exact same story as the first Castlevania?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
I think it is. I think it's like just sort of like a reboot of the original Castlevania rather than.
It's fascinating to me that they're able to take a dark, like, because these are supposed to be like scary in air quotes, like, you know what I mean, for the time. Like these are Castlevania's more of the horror franchise, right, of back then. And they found a way
like now where every horror game is you play a guy with a flashlight.
Right. Like this was supposed to be like the scary games, but like this one, they found a way to make it very bright and colorful while still maintaining that dark look. Do you know what I mean? Like I thought that was incredibly well done. I feel like every level kind of has like a different color to it. Like I love at the very beginning.
They were all themed about different parts of the castle, and it looks amazing. Like there's the sewers, there's the courtyard, there's like the main hallway, the clock tower, like tons of awesome looking levels.
Yeah, they're gorgeous. And another thing I love is I kind of wish there was alternate paths, because like between levels, they kind of show you the map of the castle, and they show you like where you're headed next and stuff. And the levels play out exactly like they're shown on that map. Like if a map shows that you're going to be going down for a long time and then over across water, then that is what you do in that level. You go down for a while and then you walk across some water. I thought it would have been kind of neat if like the map had a couple of alternate paths, because at points it looks like it does, but I can't find anything online saying that it does. But it kind of seemed to me like maybe there should be like an alternate path where you could, instead of going down into the sewers, maybe you could go through the castle or something like.
I think that must have been the original plan, and the reason I think that is because that's what Castlevania 3 does.
Right. Okay.
As the Castlevania 3 on the NES has, but I think like they got to that plan and they were like, "Look, guys, we just built this game. It's a Super Nintendo game. This is brand new hardware. I don't think we can push this any farther."
Yeah. Yeah.
I think this game is already pretty much as crazy as an early 16-bit cartridge is going to allow us to go.
And you know what's remarkable too is, like you mentioned, this is one of the early games on the Super Nintendo. There's very minimal lag in this game. Like I don't really remember any of it actually.
I don't think I got any. That being said, they might have taken it out on like but I don't think they really altered them on either the SNES Classic or the Castlevania collection.
No, most of those I know. Like I mean, I've played the Mega Man collections to death, and they left all the stuttering and lagging. Like that's almost part of the game. Like it doesn't even bother me. Like when I'm playing a game and I get that stutter and it's an old, like that doesn't bother me because I know that's just like, it almost feels natural. I'm like, that's just part of these old games. But this one ran like silky smooth. And when people bring up the best games on the Super Nintendo, like everyone thinks of like Super Mario World, Link to the Past, Super Metroid, the RPGs. Like I know I'm not the biggest Castlevania fan, so maybe I'm just tone deaf to it, but I've read a ton of lists of like the best Super Nintendo games and stuff, and this game shows up on them, but it's never in that conversation with the Super Mario World and Link to the Past.
It's usually pretty high, yeah, it's like in the 14s, 15s, and while I agree that it might not be as good as like the RPGs, Super Mario World, Link to the Past, the games that you mentioned, I definitely think it deserves to at least be talked about in the conversation.
Totally it does.
It's frustrating at points, but at the end of the day, this game is fun. It's fun to play. Yeah. You know, it's not like I don't want to piss anybody off, but like it's not like Dark Souls where it's just like, oh, it's hard, but don't worry, it's not fun. It's not like that.
No, I agree.
I like Dark Souls, but there is like I can only play it for so long before I'm like, okay, this isn't fun anymore.
Yeah. No,
this is not fun.
The only instance in this game where I really started to get frustrated, and even then I wouldn't say I wasn't having fun, but I had to walk away for a little while, was the level. You and I were texting about it. We were both playing it. I think it's level 8, but it's the one with those swinging spike platforms.
Oh, yeah.
Where I died.
Insta kills.
Oh, and listen, I'm a 36-year-old man. I've been gaming for 30 years. I know all about spikes and insta kills in video games. I understand that is as cliche. If you see a red barrel, it explodes if you hit it. Like I know how gaming works. But like where I have a problem with spiked insta kills is when I have to jump onto a platform where the bottom of the platform is covered in spikes and my guy can barely jump because he's weighed down by gravity. And if I miss that jump by even a touch, then oh no, you accidentally touched the spikes instead and now you're dead. Start all over again. Kiss my ass. If you're going to put spikes that kill me in the game, then make it so it's easy for me to navigate away from the spikes. Whoa. Yeah. That one level, Bradley, I died more on that one level than I did the rest of the game. I was so fucking angry.
Yeah, I remember playing level 8 and being like, you know what, I remember I was playing it, I was in a chair, I had my Switch, and I was playing this level 8, and at one point, I just looked up at my girlfriend and I just said, life's too short for this.
Yeah, right? Fuck me, man. But okay, listen, you're right. Like, it does sound like we have complained about this game a lot. And I'm not going to lie to you guys. The bounce back from getting hit by bad guys sucks. The jumping isn't very good.
It's not perfect.
It's not perfect. Go fuck yourself on that spinning level that makes it look like you have to jump into this hole, but you don't. If you haven't played the game yet, when you get there, don't jump off the first platform because you will die. Just fucking wait.
Yeah. You gotta wait for it's like there's like a bridge that builds itself, but you can't see it doing it at first. So
you don't know.
Oh, there's no other way for me to go.
And figure out stairs. But minus those things, I was so thoroughly impressed with this game, and clearly a lot of people wanted to hear a podcast about it because it got a lot of votes in the podcast.
The presentation here is fantastic. Yeah. It really is fantastic. And you know what this game has that I think like a lot of the games of the era didn't have, and this like includes like Super Mario World and Link to the Past. This game has such a fucking phenomenal variety of enemies.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
There's like zombies, there's werewolves, there's mummies, there's swamp creatures, there's bats. Fuck the bats.
And the
I
Medusa
died more
heads.
on the bats, I think, than anything.
Yeah.
Medusa heads. There's knights. There's so many different fucking enemies in this game. It's crazy. Oh, there's the flying creatures, the flying lizard things, and then there's the water ones that shoot the water out of their mouths. I hate those guys.
Yeah, I hate them too. But
there's a shocking amount of variety in this game that is pretty short, but like the levels are varied, and that is the big takeaway from this game. It's just nonstop variety. as far as visual goes. The gameplay remains relatively the same.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I was thoroughly impressed, man. I don't know Castlevania that well. I mean, just quickly, we're not going to get into the NES Castlevanias because I would like to cover them on future episodes of the show. But you had mentioned how you had played Castlevania 2 as a kid, and you were like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, that was the first Castlevania game that I beat, and I just remember being like, "Well, that was really weird and fucked up," and I'm not sure because like the problem with Castlevania 2, we won't get into it too hard, is that like the idea is so good, like to have a Castlevania game that takes place over like a Metroidvania sort of like a sort of game. It is a Metroidvania game. That's what people don't realize about Castlevania 2. It is that, but you have to figure out fucking everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And it just like, I despise games that don't explain to me what to do at all. Like, I don't mind a little problem solving, but give me a blueprint. And Castlevania, it's so weird to me because Castlevania 1 is almost like the Super Mario Brothers of the Castlevania series, because it's the first one. You can see they're figuring it out, right? And it's good. Castlevania 2 is weird. Castlevania 3 is awesome. And then this one is just like, and then the fact that you, among a lot of other people, say Symphony of the Night is better than this one has me very intrigued about Symphony. I'm going to put it on I might even put it on a poll. I might just play it. It's on my PlayStation Classic. Cause like, I'm intrigued. Like I had a lot of fun.
Is it on PlayStation Classic?
It is when you,
or is it on your
it is when you go under the hood. Yeah, then it is.
Symphony and it fucking rules. It's much like it was such a weird game for the time. We won't get into it too much because if you want to talk about it, I'm there.
Right.
But it's the kind of game that's like every other game in the series is like 5 hours, but Symphony of the Night is like 50.
Right. It's like it's a big game.
Dense, dude. It's like it's at least 4 Super Metroids big, if not more.
I have no problem with that though. Like fucking because especially that era, they had the CD, they had the big PlayStation. Like I don't think you could get away with a 4-hour game once you got to the PlayStation era. People would have been like, "What the fuck?" Like it's like that was a Super Nintendo thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, and even as a kid, I think and again, this goes back to that shitty difficulty. I think this is a good way to start wrapping it up. Is like if I had owned this game as a kid. I would have. I was about to say I would have complained that it was too short, but then you know what? Donkey Kong Country is this short. Super Mario World is this short. Link to the Past isn't very long. The difference is that it was hard enough that there's no way I would have beat it in 3 hours as a kid, especially with those save states and stuff. All I had was a password that would take me back to the beginning of the level. That I will say, and it's not.
The system in this game sucks.
It does suck. I'm quite shocked that at this point it didn't have a battery save in it. Like like Super Mario World has a. Oh, I just lost Bradley again. You know what? I'm just going to keep talking until he calls back because I'm sure he's going to call me back in a second. But I'm very surprised that this doesn't have... I'm going to have to explain this again as soon as he recalls me. I'm very surprised that this game doesn't have a battery save in it because like Super Mario World had a battery save, Link to the Past has a battery save, Super Metroid has Mario Kart, like all of these... F-Zero, it was like one of the launch titles almost on the Super Nintendo, had it. Hey, buddy, I kept talking while you were calling me back because I'm not sure how I lost you there. But I was just saying...
Okay, we'll just pretend that it didn't happen.
Oh, no, I sounds like he's gone, but I'm going to keep talking anyway. But basically, all I was saying was like, so many great Super Nintendo games had battery saves, and I'm a little shocked this one didn't. Same as Mega Man, like some of those games where I'm just like, you couldn't put a battery save in this? Even if it just starts me back at the beginning of the level and all that stuff, just so I don't have to write down one of your shitty fucking passwords? I don't know.
And you know what I hate most about the password system in this game? Number one, it's really long. But number two, it's all in like that Roman text. So sometimes you're like, is that a D? Is that an O? I'm not sure what I'm looking at here, guys.
Yeah, I don't listen. Like, I've never designed a video game, so I don't know how hard it is to make a fucking video game. But I don't understand if you have to put a password system in. Can it be easy? Like, in particularly a game like listen, if it's a game like fucking. I don't know. I'm just trying to let's just say for argument's sake, Super Metroid has a password system instead of save points. That's probably a complicated password because who knows how many items you found and what parts of the map you've opened up and all that kind of stuff. This game, there's no carryover. There's no power-ups. You just play each level. To me, the password could have been as simple as fucking 5 letters. Oh, okay. That's the 5 letters that put you at the beginning of level 8. Like I just don't get it. You know what I mean? Like
you know, it'd almost be like, a way to still save space but still have a battery password is every time you turn off the game, it remembers which levels you have beaten in the past, and then when you start the game, you go to a level select.
Yeah. Or quite frankly, I don't know. Like, I don't understand why it couldn't just be a level select. Like, why can't, like, I don't have to use it. Like, just put it in the options if I want it. You know what I mean? It's my fucking game. It's my game. If I want to skip it all, then let me skip it all. Fuck off.
I despise games without battery saves because there's no fucking way I'm going to play 8 levels that I've already fucking played.
Yeah.
There's no way. It's like when I discovered the warp zones in the Super Mario Brothers, like in the first one, I was like, oh, this game's playable now. That's cool.
Yeah, right. Man, you know what, Bradley? This episode has turned out the exact opposite of the Mario 64 episode, where, like, Mario 64, I was ready to come in here and rip that game a new ass. And by the end of that episode...
amazing game that you don't like?
Yeah, well, it's potato.
Sequel, Super Mario Sunshine.
Oh, fuck you, Bradley. And by the end of the game, I was like... By the end of the episode, I was like, you know what? Mario 64, I still don't like it, but there's a lot of good there. This game, you're right. Like, this game, I'm looking at my phone... This is approximately a 45-minute discussion about Super Castlevania IV, and I feel like we probably spent 25 of the 45 minutes just shitting on this game, and, like, I really like this game.
Good.
Yeah, a lot.
It is technically good, but here's the thing. Let's go off on one extreme positive note about this game.
Shoot.
If we're talking conversations about video game soundtracks, this is in there. Yeah. Holy fuck, is the music in this game ever awesome, dude. It rips. Yeah,
the music in this game is banging. Like, there's certain games where I just know, like, because we record these weeks in advance sometimes before the episode goes live, and I haven't even thought about the music I'm going to put in this one yet, but I'm excited to be able to bring up the soundtrack to this game and listen to the tunes, because I'm like, there's some good fucking tunes in this game. Like,
yeah, man, that's like, especially like that 16-bit remaster of the Castlevania theme. Where it's like, and you're like, oh,
I noticed that too. Where I was like, I remember it playing, and I was like, I think it's when you fight Dracula that it plays. Maybe I'm wrong, but I remember it playing there, and I was just like, holy fuck, that's the original Castlevania track. And listen, that is so smart. Any game, if you've ever made a video game in your life and you decide to make another one based on an old version of that game, put in a remix of the music. That's all we want. It doesn't have to be a great remix. In this case, it is, but it doesn't even have to be. People just get off on that nostalgia. I know I fucking do. I love it. You were talking about how you're playing Final Fantasy VII Remake right now. Some of the music in that remake got me so hard because I was like, that's just like a way better version of the original music. And you're right. The music in this game kicks some fucking ass. It's
unreal.
Just quickly,
it's simply unreal.
Before we score this, I'm on their Wikipedia page, and one of the first things is the official Nintendo magazine placed the game at 70 on their list of 100 best Nintendo games ever. And I get that the list of 100 best Nintendo, not Super Nintendo, but the best 100 Nintendo games ever is probably a pretty stacked list, but 70 seems too low.
What year was that posted though? Like, are we talking like NES all the way to Switch? Are we talking NES to like GameCube? What are we talking here?
It was printed in 2012, so that would have been during the Wii.
This is a Konami game, so that means because like you got to think like there are certain games like Resident Evil 4, like that's like it's a Nintendo game, quote unquote, right? Because it's premiered on GameCube. Because if we're considering this a Nintendo game, this is a Konami game on the Super Nintendo. You gotta think of every fucking thing.
Sure.
You gotta think of Resident Evil 4. You gotta think about like the No More Heroes games on Wii. You gotta think about a ton of shit.
Like I'm just thinking like there's 21 games on the Super Nintendo Classic, and that's all. I'm just thinking about that. Like, it seems insane to me that it probably wouldn't make my top 10 on the Super Nintendo Classic. But to me, that's less of a slam on how good this game is and more of just a tip of the hat to how incredibly stacked the roster on the Super Nintendo is.
Absolutely.
But fucking great game. I'm trying to think of what to score this thing out of. Okay, well, let's do that. There's 21 games on the Super Nintendo Classic. That's a good number. So on a scale of 1 to 21, what would you score Super Castlevania IV?
I'm going to score Super Castlevania IV at 16 out of 21 Super NES games.
All right. I'm going to go 18. I was thoroughly impressed. Until I play Symphony of the Night, this is my favorite Castlevania game, and it's not even close. Although now I got to see what Symphony of the Night's fucking all about.
Yes. You got to do some homework.
Guys, there's too many. You know what the best and worst thing about starting this show is like every week there's at least half a dozen games that people are like, dude, you should play this. And I'm like, I literally have nothing to do right now and I can't keep up with all these fucking games. But I will get to Symphony of the Night because it looks fat. But speaking of fat, so was Castlevania 4. Just quickly, Bradley, and I don't expect you to remember off the top of your head, you are a supporter of our show on Patreon as well, via your Movie Epidemic podcast, which thank you very much, by the way. And check out his podcast. It's very, very good. I felt like Donald Trump saying that, but thank you very much. It was very good.
It's great. It's the best podcast
best
of all time.
Ever. It's great. And we're not getting into I don't want to talk Trump. What was I going to say? Do you remember, did you vote in this poll? Did you vote for Castlevania? Do you remember? If you don't worry about it.
I did vote for Super Castlevania 4.
You did, eh? Yeah, it ran away. Like, it was up against Batman, Doom 64, Streets of Rage 2, Medieval, and Double Dragon, and it was Castlevania 4 followed by Medieval but Castlevania 4 fucking ran away. And now, like,
this was the only one that I really had nostalgia for. The rest of them were like, these are pretty good games. I have the Batman NES game, and it's, man, if you think this is hard, check out that Batman NES.
I have played the Batman one a little bit. I just, the reason I put it on the poll was because I want to go back and play more of it, because I do remember liking it, but I remember it being fucking tough. But
it's interesting. Well, I'll hold off. I'll hold off on what I have to say.
Yeah, we'll talk about it someday. But I was, dude, I'm like, I pride myself on being a Super Nintendo junkie. I love the Super Nintendo, my favorite system ever. My keychain, literally, I have a lanyard that's a Super Nintendo lanyard on my keys. Like, I adore the system. And to me, probably the two best Super Nintendo games, at least according to critics, that I've never played were this and ActRaiser. And now that I've played this, ActRaiser's next. But like, I'm like,
I was literally thinking just 1 minute ago. I'm like, after this podcast, I'm gonna ask him if he's ever played ActRaiser.
No, I haven't. And it's the two. Yeah, they're the two big blemishes in my Super Nintendo resume. And playing this one, like, I just have to say, you guys, listen. Like, I don't even want this to sound as sentimental and weenie as it's gonna sound, but like, the Super Nintendo is my childhood. It's my favorite console. And to discover a new Super Nintendo game that I've never played, that is like, I would absolutely put it in a conversation with Link to the Past and Super Mario World and stuff. And if you know anything about me and my views of video games, that is like the highest praise that I can pay a video game. It was so rad getting to play a Super Nintendo game of that quality that I had never really played before, and just fucking awesome. Like, I'm so glad this game won the podcast or the poll, and I'm so glad we were able to talk about it. This game is so good. If you have a Super Nintendo Classic or access to the Castlevania collection, buy them or play them just to play this game. I promise you it's worth it if you like old games. I promise.
You know what's crazy though is that you and I were talking about doing Super Castlevania 4, and I was like, oh good, I've needed an excuse to buy the Super Castlevania collection on Switch.
That's
and you're
right.
like, no, don't spend money if you don't got to. And I'm like, no, I wanted it anyways.
Yeah, yeah, you did. You were like, I'll buy it. I'll buy it to play it, to do it on the show, because it was an excuse to buy it.
So I went to the purchase page, and it was like, re-download? And I was like, oh, I already bought this, I guess.
Oh, no shit, really?
Yeah, apparently I already bought it at some point.
Oh, nice. Well, that makes me feel better, because you didn't spend your money to fucking do the podcast. That's good.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, and you know what? I vaguely remember playing it a few months ago, but I don't think I played it for very long.
Fucking great, man.
But apparently I bought. Yeah, and the collection, by the way, anybody who's looking, it actually is like an insane collection. There's some really cool things. You can actually play all of the games in their original Japanese form as well. And I think Mega Man Legacy Collection does that as well.
Yeah, I can't play that.
Which is wicked. I wouldn't do that because I can't read Japanese. I wouldn't, but you can do that.
But you can.
And there's like different options. Like one thing that this game does that the Mega Man ones don't is that when you retrack your controls, it fucking saves. Oh, it saves that you remap. Oh my god, I don't have to remap it every fucking time I play it.
Yeah, fuck. Every game ever should have that option too.
It's an awesome collection, and yeah. But yeah, like I said earlier, like this is definitely the best one on there because they do have the Game Boy games as well, which are actually kind of fun, but only kind of. But
yeah.
Anyway, I'll reserve all thoughts on those. Super Castlevania 4, it rips. 16 out of 21 from me, 18 out of 21 from Adam.
Yeah, that's an average of 17. Everybody, that's math. Fuck yeah! If you need someone to do your math, call me. because I can do it.
Shit, we got a math wizard in the house.
Boom. Bradley, thank you so much not only for doing this, but for supporting the show and for almost buying the game to do the show and all that good stuff. Really appreciate it. Everybody check out Bradley's podcast. The Movie Epidemic is really, really good. I promise it's more of this. Kind of.
Yeah, we just scream about movies, and we're not smart, so it's all good.
Thanks for doing this, buddy.
No problem.
Done. That's going to do it for this week's episode. Bradley, thank you so much for calling me and talking Castlevania and for buying Castlevania just to talk about it here on the show with me. I appreciate it. And to every single one of you people that listened, that support the show, that voted for it on our Patreon poll for whatever reason you're hearing my voice right now. Thank you so much. If you haven't yet, check out our new website, rememberthegamepodcast.com. Maybe throw us a share if you're somewhere like on social media, and you could. That'd be really great. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at @memberthegame. I promise I'll follow you back and we can be friends. And if you're really crazy about the show and you want to get nuts, support us over on Patreon, patreon.com/rememberthegame. It's only $2 a month. You get an extra podcast every Sunday. There's a whole bunch of old podcasts waiting for you. You can see all those over at our website. You get a whole bunch of other stuff as well. It's $2. It's fucking nothing, but it makes all the difference to me. That's going to do it, you guys. I will be back on Sunday with the next edition of Remember the Game Expansion Pass, where we will be all about the Wii U, and I will be back next week with episode 102 of Remember the Game. Thanks for listening, you guys. Take it easy, clean your controllers, be safe, wash your hands, look out for giant bugs, don't sneeze on anyone, and I'll talk to you again in a week. Cheers.